St. Patrick was a dramatic person. His impact stretches far from England into Ireland to the whole of continental Europe. The movement he began in Ireland was responsible for re-evangelizing continental Europe after the fall of Rome. How did this all begin? Well, Patrick had a very traumatic experience, but this experience did not define him. It actually set his course for his destiny. He grew up on the coast of England, and at that time it was ruled by the Romans. But the Romans were beginning to need their soldiers in other places, and so they were subject to raids by the Irish. Now, the Irish were very barbaric. They would come and steal people and make them slaves. This is what happened one night to Patrick. And as a young teenager, he was sold into slavery to a sheep herder in Ireland. Whereas he had grown up as a Christian in his father's house, now he was being raised by a pagan in Ireland, and this man was very bad to him and treated him poorly. He spent much time out in the wilderness in the cold, and in that soul-searching time, he wrestled with God, and his faith in God began to grow. And in fact, that time was marked by prayer for him. Now, Patrick, in his autobiography called The Confessions, talks about how this was a very sad time for him, that he was not able to be educated, to go to high school, to go to college, to be an educated man. However, his faith grew strong, and to the point where one time he had a dream, and in this dream, God directed him supernaturally to leave his slave master's home. He did this. He escaped his slave master, and he ran across this wilderness, foreign country, to the coastland. And there he met some people in a boat. Now here he was asked these men, "Can I go with you across the water?" And they didn't want him to. But he prayed, and God opened a door and changed their hearts. And he was enabled to go with these men to England. And it took him 2 years. And in that time, there was supernatural provision of food for this group of men. And this story you can find in this book, The Story of St. Patrick, which is produced by the Voice of the Martyrs. I highly encourage parents and educators to share this story with their students, with their children, because you see in the life of St. Patrick such faith. When he finally arrives home, his parents are very happy to see him. They don't want him ever to go again. But in time, he has another dream, and he sees the Irish people are calling him to come back to them and to share Christ with them. And so he begins to feel a call to the Irish, and he takes steps to become trained as a minister of the gospel. And after his training time, he returns. His family was sad to see him go. They knew what could be done to him and the violence of this barbaric people. But they said goodbye, and off he went. Now, in Ireland, Patrick traveled around with a group of people, and he church planted everywhere he went. He started tons of churches. In one of these places, he sent gifts to the chieftain. It's a very funny story because the chieftain ended up becoming converted. And in this process, he wanted to be baptized. And so Patrick, at the baptism, was praying for this chief and accidentally took his crozier, his staff, and stabbed the guy's foot as he was intensely in prayer and didn't know it. Well, the chieftain, he was like, oh. He was taking each beating, thinking it was part of the ritual process. Of course, it wasn't. And I'm sure Patrick felt really embarrassed about that, but it went down in history. The chieftain gave his life to God, and so did so many Irish people. The Irish became so devoted to God. They started schools, they started seminaries, they sent missionaries all over. They sent them up into the North Atlantic. There were hermits that went all the way up into Iceland and Greenland. Others went to Scotland, which was also very barbaric, and then into Northumbria, the north of England. Other Irish missionaries went into continental Europe, to areas of France, and then down into Italy, evangelizing up into Germany, re-evangelizing those barbaric areas after the fall of Rome, bringing the gospel. And not only that, bringing communities of faith, bringing in educational institutions, teaching people to read and to be able to read the Bible. And along with that, they love to sing and their prayers. And so we have some beautiful prayers. One that Patrick is known for, which I think every child should hear at least once, is the beautiful prayer of the Lorica. It's called St. Patrick's breastplate. And this prayer is like a shield prayer. And it's a prayer of remembering all who God is and what he has done. And I especially love the part that many of you may recognize that talks about Christ be before me, Christ behind me, Christ above me, Christ below me, Christ beside me, Christ in the eye of everyone that sees me. And I just love the Lorica. It's so wonderful. It's a beautiful prayer and meditation. And another one of the contributions that St. Patrick has given us. So on St. Patrick's Day, I just encourage educators and parents to make their children and students aware of the great contribution of St. Patrick in Christian history. He is a stunning example of a Christian hero that sacrificed, that faced mighty dangers to bring the gospel to a barbaric tribe that was ready to receive him and embraced Christ and changed the course of the nation and also of Europe. So this St. Patrick's Day, we just remember him and thank God for what a godly man he was.